Chris Paul has a player option for $44 million, and he's not going to accept it. He wants a long-term deal because he wants a 2 to 3 year deal. That's what has been reported. And they also have free agents. They have Torrey Craig, Cameron Payne, Etuan Moore, Frank Kaminsky. The biggest two are Torrey Craig, Cam Payne, and Chris Paul, and he's the third. If Chris Paul declines this option, they would have $20 million in cap space. And for me, when I think about what's next for the Phoenix Suns, I don't think about Chris Paul. And this is why all year, and even when the draft happened, I was saying the Suns made a mistake. Because if they drafted Tyrese Halliburton instead of Jalen Smith, this wouldn't have been a problem. They have their point guard of the future. But because they went with Jalen Smith, who got no burn the entire season,
didn't even hear his name not once.
You now have to pay for a point guard in free agency, and I think that point guard is Lonzo Ball. He's a guy that fits Phoenix's timeline. If you offer him a $20 million contract yearly, the Pelicans won't match it. And now Lonzo can grow with Booker, can grow with Ayton, Crowder, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. And I think that would be good for them. And maybe they could even bring back Cameron Payne. And I would also target a backup shooting guard, maybe Alec Burks or Norman Powell, just to have a backup shooting guard. Because in the playoffs, Cameron Payne was their go-to scorer. But when he didn't have it, they had no scoring off the bench. And I think that's where they need a guy like an Alec Burks, or in the draft, maybe a Quentin Grimes, I think would fit with them too. So I think the Suns have a lot to think about. I don't think Chris Paul is coming back because I think he wants to win a championship, and he's eyeing a team that can give him the best chance to do so. And even though Phoenix made the finals, there was a lot of good fortune in this run.
What do you think, Riv?
You know, first of all, going off this run, you know, people were talking about Chris Paul being an MVP candidate, Chris Paul being this, Chris Paul being that. And I just think Chris Paul, I think he wants to win. And I think he's looking at other spots as the best chance to win. But I also think, you know, this Phoenix team, you know, they built a lot of continuity together. And I wouldn't be surprised if he says, you know what, I'll stay, take the $44 million. But at this point in time, like Joel said, Cam Payne, Chris Paul, that was a big part of their success. Torrey Craig, too. I think they need to get a point guard. Lonzo Ball could be the answer. But, you know, do you think you'll be competitive at the same level with Lonzo Ball at the one? Do you pull out all the stops to keep Chris Paul in town? You know, Chris Paul.
You asking me? You're just talking hypothetically.
Talking like I'm.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like Chris Paul was such a major success to Devin Booker's improvement, DeAndre Ayton's improvement. You know, so it's like the Suns are in a tricky situation. You know, coming off of finals, you wouldn't think you might lose your second best player, your leader, your point guard, and your backup point guard. And you know, the point guard position is huge, but they do need to go out. Like you said, if Chris Paul does decline, they have $20 million cap. Maybe a Kyle Lowry would be good too. You know, another point guard, more veteranship, more leadership, a guy who can keep you in that playoff hunt. I don't know if Lonzo Ball is at the point where he can keep you at the top of the West. I think maybe Kyle Lowry can, Mike Conley maybe, but at this point in time, you know, it's going to be tough because Chris Paul, you know, the Lakers have been in tune with Chris Paul, and that's a hard team to fight for when you have LeBron and Anthony Davis out there. But he did just go to the finals with them. And I personally, I don't think they'll repeat next year going back, bearing any injuries. But keeping Chris Paul in town and Cam Payne is something they need to do, but I don't know if they'll be able to do it.
If I'm the Suns, I'm just not panicking. Personally,
before you start, what percentage is your computer on?
100%.
Yeah, take that off.
Got you, bro.
I got different.
That's all right, bro. So, again, like I said, if I look at the Phoenix Suns right now and I'm thinking about next season, I'm not panicking too much. I have Devin Booker, who's one of the best guards in our game right now. I have one of the best young centers in our game in DeAndre Ayton. He showed this playoffs that he is an elite talent in this league, and he's someone that you can match up with Devin Booker and they can have success. Now you take CP3 out of that mix. I don't think that they're obviously going to reach the heights that they did this season, of course, with the leadership that he brings. But I'm looking at a guy like Monty Williams who had success in his first season, and I trust Monty Williams with these guys. You mentioned Lonzo Ball. Perfect name. Because he matches exactly what Chris Paul brings, other than, of course, that coach on the court. You have a guy that is gonna get your best player the ball to score the basketball. You have a guy that is amazing on defense. You have a guy that has been working on his jump shot that has brought it up to damn near 40% from behind the line. His athleticism is with the best of the guards right now, and you're getting him for a value that is going to be higher once he's up for his next contract, I firmly believe. If I'm the Suns, again, don't panic. You have a great young core. You saw what they could do when they reached their maximum potential. Do I think they repeat? No. But again, you have Booker, you have Ayton. These are two guys that you could build around and build a strong core. So if they just trust the team, trust Monty Williams, trust the head office, trust Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, they could eventually reach the finals again. Do I think it'll be next season? No. But I think that if you surround another guy, you need a point guard if CP3 is going to walk. But for me, if I'm the Suns, $40 million to give to CP3 at this age when he just got clamped by Jrue Holiday and he had an amazing Game 6. Amazing Game 6.
He had an amazing series.
Chris Paul, he had a good series in my opinion. He would have had an amazing series had he not had Game 3 and Game 4. Game 5 happened.
A lot of turnovers.
He had a lot of turnovers. In 3 games, 15 turnovers. Jrue Holiday wore him out. But that's what he's getting older. He's getting up there in age. To give a guy like that where he got burnt out towards the end of the season. And you needed him to be Chris Paul for them to get over that hump and win the championship. And you bring in a guy like Lonzo Ball who's younger, who's got a lot more miles on him, who fits that scheme. The Suns would be perfectly fine. But even if you don't bring in a guy like Lonzo Ball, you need a point guard. However, trust Devin Booker, trust DeAndre Ayton.
I think part of the problem when a team wins a championship is that instead of praising the winner, we kind of bash the loser and think they didn't play well. I think the Suns played an amazing series. I think
My bad, bro.
the way they played against the Bucks, they would have beat 99% of teams the way they played. The problem is that versus the Bucks in Game 5, in that crazy run the Bucks went on without Giannis on the court, they had an offensive rating of 181. That's absurd.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That has nothing to do with Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul did what he had to do in this series. He had some bad moments, but that doesn't change the fact that he overall he had a good series. It's just that in Game 5, Devin Booker turns over the ball. Jrue Holiday lobs it to Giannis. Game 3, Chris Paul turns over the ball, doesn't find Booker. There were just key moments in some of these games that didn't go their way. And because of those moments, because they were big-time moments, we point at that and ignore everything else that happened and say, okay, he played good. He didn't play that bad. We try to make these, we try to minimize their performance. I think Chris Paul played excellent. If you look at his shooting splits, if you look at his stats, he played amazing. Even watching the game, I think he controlled the tempo of the game. There were times that I thought Chris Paul was a liability. I don't think Jrue Holiday clamping him was him wearing down. I thought it was just great defense by Jrue Holiday. And I think when you have Jrue Holiday in a position where he can get somebody one-on-one, that's what's going to happen.
For sure.
Against Atlanta, they didn't allow Trae Young to go one-on-one with Jrue Holiday. There was always a screen for Trae Young.
Yep.
Chris Paul didn't have that luxury because DeAndre Ayton's screens in his finals weren't very good.
Correct.
DeAndre Ayton didn't play up to his potential. Mikal Bridges, outside of a couple of games, didn't play up to his potential. Dario Saric being out was huge. They had to slide in Frank Kaminsky. Torrey Craig didn't play up to his potential. I thought Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, they all played phenomenal. But some of the other guys that we were expecting to step up didn't step up. This is the reason why I don't think the Suns should bring back Chris Paul. I get that they just went to the finals, but realistically, are they contenders next season if every team is healthy in the West? I don't believe they are. I don't believe they're a top 4 team in the Western Conference.
I think they are.
Top 4?
With the Clippers not having Kawhi for a bulk of the season.
Very good point. But they had success without him still.
But you think they're a top 4 team?
I think they're better than Jazz. I think the Jazz are better than them. I just thought Mike Conley was out. But I thought the Jazz would have beat the Suns in WCF.
I think so too. But I'm
Jazz
saying
will
we're
be
talking about
back.
going into this year.
Warriors, obviously the Lakers. I still think the Clippers are going to be up there. I think the Suns could be a top 4 team. That's pretty
I
accurate.
think
I want to
Mike
finish my
Conley back.
statement. So I don't think they should bring back Chris Paul because I think it's a short-sighted move. He just led them to the finals. I don't believe they're contenders next season. If you give Chris Paul big-time money right now, let's say it's a 2-year deal. When that 2-year deal is over, you're already going to pay DeAndre Ayton. You already paid Mikal Bridges. You already paid Devin Booker. That means that you have no more cap space once Paul's contract is done to get a good to great point guard. Chris Paul's timeline doesn't fit with the Suns' timeline. I think Lonzo Ball is a huge drop-off from Chris Paul, a gigantic drop-off.
sure.
But I think Lonzo Ball, with the Suns' offense, with the coach like Monty Williams, can finally unlock himself as a player, can have that confidence. He just had a career season. We know that he's a pass-first point guard. He can help Devin Booker, but I think most importantly, he can grow with DeAndre Ayton. And now all of these guys are on the exact same timeline, and I think that matters more.
So you think Alonzo Ball, DeAndre Ayton, and Devin Booker, big three is the go-to for the future? Because Devin Booker not Devin Booker, Ayton and Bridges contracts, they're due for an extension next year.
I think that's their best chance because Chris Paul.
Because even if, say for example, they do sign Chris Paul to a 1 or 2 year deal, it probably won't be long. He'll probably either retire.
That's true.
Or the deal will be up.
Okay, once Chris Paul's deal is up, where do they go?
Well, they still have to pay the other guys regardless.
Okay, but
In terms of point guard, I'm
but
assuming.
if they sign Lonzo Ball right now,
Mm-hmm.
they can go over the cap to sign their guys.
No, they can go over the cap regardless, but
Not to sign Lonzo Ball.
yeah,
Not to sign if once CP3's contract is over, his next one,
yeah,
and they already paid their guys, they don't have the cap anymore to sign another player
yeah.
that's of any worth. Because of that,
So they're basically
I think they should go with Lonzo now and just
so you're
say
banking on
goodbye
Lonzo's
to
potential.
CP3. I mean, look, even with how he is as a player right now, giving you 15, 6, and 7, I think that's a pretty good point guard.
For sure.
Like I've been saying all
Oh,
year,
yeah, he's good.
I think they should have drafted
You know
Halle
I'm a
Burton.
supporter.
But when we talk about Phoenix, what really is going to get them over the top in the future is Devin Booker taking the next step and like even a bigger step than where he's at now. But most importantly, it's DeAndre Ayton becoming a dominant center. That's what they're banking on for the future. Even if Chris Paul comes back at 37 years old, I mean, what really, realistically, what is the ceiling if DeAndre Ayton doesn't improve much past what he's right now?
It's Lonzo Ball. You know, he's a good player, but banking on his potential when they've just went to the finals, I think that's like a couple steps down. You know, with teams like realistically, let's just jot out the teams. Why you keep stepping on my foot?
I don't know that's your foot.
Yeah, that's my foot.
Yeah, I don't know. It's your foot.
You know, just throw out some teams coming into next season. Does Lonzo Ball make them still over the top for Denver? I don't know. Lakers? Hell no. Utah? No.
But you already think they're not going to go back to the finals, correct?
If Chris Paul comes back?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
So if that's the case,
But they're gonna. I think.
why
with
not just
I think with
think about
Lonzo
the
Ball
future?
though, I mean, yeah, you could think about the future, but I don't know.
and money, that's 25 extra million.
That is
Let me
true.
tell you something, Riv.
The money's very terrible.
Let me tell you something, Riv. We saw Cameron Payne go from an overseas player to a important rotational player for a finals team. You don't think Lonzo can go from what he is right now, a starter, to an all-star caliber guard
He was following
With-
behind Chris Paul.
with Monty Williams' tutelage?
That was Chris Paul's leadership in the locker room. He's playing behind Chris Paul.
Cameron Payne was good in the bubble with the Suns.
Yeah, but that was a small sample size.
Oh,
did
right,
it-
but he
And then he did it again.
He
next
did it
season.
again.
That's
But I'm
fair.
saying in the bubble, he showed out as well.
That is fair.
He was showing out with them.
That's fair.
I'm saying with Monty Williams, the way that he talks to his players, I think Lonzo Ball's confidence would take a huge jump
I agree.
and would really help him unleash his game. It
And
would
I-
help him unleash his game and maximize his potential.
I look at
Possible.
Lonzo right now. Has he ever had a coach like that at all?
LeBron.
He's not a coach like that.
And I
He's not.
he's not a coach. Like
Yeah, but
Yeah, and a point guard standpoint, like CP3
Yeah.
is, but he's being disrespectful.
Yeah, he is.
I'm not being disrespectful. It's a fact. He quit on his team, bro.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
You
Thank you.
gotta
Like,
stop with that,
Did you
bro.
see my video? My video that explains it, bro.
anyways, he hasn't had a coach like Monty Williams.
You know we
to
just like
instill.
synced twice just
yeah,
now, right?
yeah, OD. It's like one of those basketball memes where they like both like transition to the court at
Pretty
the same
much,
exact
yeah.
time. But regardless of that, he hasn't had a coach like Monty Williams
That's fair.
like at all in his
Okay,
career.
that's a fair point.
Had Luke Walton. Then I think he had a season. I think who was the coach the next
sucked. It
season?
doesn't matter.
Regardless, but who was that head coach before?
Lionel Hollins, Stan Van Gundy.
And
God,
yuck. And now you get a guy like Monty Williams who
that's a fair point.
you understand what I'm trying to say
I
there.
get-
It's
I
like
get-
I
I
trust
definitely
that there.
Get where you guys are coming from. You know, Monty Williams did show out this year. It's just hard for me to believe in Lonzo. You know, this was his year 4. You know, granted he hasn't had the best coaches, but he hasn't. You know, he's improved, but it's been slight improvements. You know, Phoenix being as they're looking at the West, where the West is still, you know, that West it is
for sure.
Teams are coming back, players are coming back. You know, they want to stay at the top of the mountain, and it's just going to be tough for Lonzo Ball being there.